Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to my run through on the supergroup Mr. Big. This band is nothing if not prolific, all of its different members. Case in point, my 80 CD collection on this band and related projects. But before we dive into all that, if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And by subscribing, as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this, with my 80 CD collection of Mr. Big band and related projects. So the band itself formed in 1988 by Billy Sheehan on bass. He comes from the David Lee Roth band. Eric Martin on vocals. He was solo prior to this, had a couple albums out. Paul Gilbert on guitars, coming from Racer X, and Pat Torpy on drums, coming from Impellitteri, and also a very in-demand session player. And so their biggest hit came in 1992 with To Be With You, the ballad. It shot up the charts. While they did break up in 2002, they reformed in 2009, and despite the death of original drummer Pat Torpy, the band is still going. So the collection of 80 CDs, the way that this breaks down is Mr. Big, I've got 23, Eric Martin, I've got 12, Paul Gilbert, 15, Billy Sheehan, 11, Pat Torpy, 3, Richie Kotzen, 15, and new drummer Matt Starr, 1. So let's dive right into this. This is going to be a whirlwind run through with 80 CDs. We're going to try and fit this in a reasonable amount of time here. So not a lot to dive into on each one of these, but I'll give you a little bit of background as I can. So kicking things off, their debut album in 1989, self-titled Mr. Big, comes out. Their second album, Lean Into It. Of course, this is the one that has To Be With You, the big ballad on it, from 1991. So when the album came out, the hit went up the charts in 92. This is a band that puts out a lot of live albums on almost every tour, and most of these are Japanese released. So this one comes out, I believe, in 1992, simply called Mr. Big Live. Bump Ahead comes out in 1993 as the follow-up. It's got the song Promise Her the Moon, which is fairly successful for them, but unfortunately, nowhere near as big as the original one. They do another live album, Japandemonium. As I mentioned, a lot of these are from Japan. They're really big in Japan. That was 1993. Then it's not until 1996 that they come back with Hey Man, a really great album, personally one of my favorites in all of their catalog. They also put out this, Big, Bigger, Biggest, Greatest Hits, which was really cool. 3 new songs at the time and some rarities included amongst that. That's a Japanese release also. Here's another one, live. I believe this is Live at the Hard Rock. From the 1996 tour as well. This one's very cool. Live at Budokan in this metal tin package here. Just a CD and booklet on the inside of it. No other sort of things, but cool nonetheless. Way that is. And again, Japanese release there for a live album from the 1996 era of the band. And then at that point, Paul Gilbert, the original guitar player, leaves, and they bring in Richie Kotzen, ex-Poison, at this time. And they record this album here, Get Over It. It comes out, I believe, in 1999. That was an interesting one because, like the Poison album, Native Tongue, which took a more acoustic, soulful turn, so did this one here. They then do another best of. This time this is best of the ballads, so it does focus predominantly on ballads, although there's some upbeat songs on this one. Another Japanese collection with a couple new tracks and rarities. So each time these things were worth picking up. Final album with Richie Kotzen before they broke up in 2002. This one here, which is called Actual Size. Another Japanese edition of it, came with an extra booklet and some goodies at the time. So that's why it's in the slipcase here. And they recorded a live album from that tour that they released in 2002, big in Japan, which Mr. Big certainly are. They can sell out the Budokan and other things over there. They also did a greatest hits for the United States and the rest of the territories. As we had seen, there'd been a few from the Japanese market. This one here goes all the way up through the era with the 2 albums with Richie Kotzen. So nice that they don't exclude that. And again, this one comes in a slipcase as well. And then when they reunited in 2009, back to Budokan live album, because as I mentioned, they can sell the place out. 2 brand new studio tracks were included on this one here, which are Next Time Around and Hold Your Head Up, which is a cover song from Argent. They do a very good version of that. Then their first reunion studio album, which I picked up as a Japanese release at the time. It didn't get an American release right away, called What If. Features a bonus track on here, Kill Me With a Kiss. They did Live from a Living Room, which was an acoustic show, 10 tracks here, another Japanese release. And then The Stories We Could Tell, this one here came out in 2014, studio album. They have a whole series of live albums called Raw Like Sushi in Japan, of which I picked up a couple. In fact, this whole 80 CD collection here is not the entirety. There's other ones that I have that I just wasn't able to locate and pull out and make part of this, because I've got the 2 EPs that kick off the Raw Like Sushi thing as well. Those are not being shown in this. Double album from that tour, Defying Gravity. Final studio album with Pat Torpy, still involved in the band before he passes away. Live in Milan album here. So by this point they had Matt Starr touring with them and playing with them, even though Pat Torpy would come out and do some percussion and things of that nature, still part of the band, but he passes away either tail end of that tour or right after the tour had ended, kind of a thing. So Matt Starr's now full member of the band. And then this here, another best of, simply called Songs. It's released for the Japanese market and collects together just the 3 reunion albums. So cool little package there if you're interested in just hearing that stuff. All right, now we're going to try to pick this pace up and really blow through here. So we're going to jump over to Eric Martin, the vocalist. He kicks things off with the Eric Martin Band, and Troy Luccketta from Tesla is in this lineup. This is going back, I believe, to 1980. He then does 2 solo albums that are much more in the soulful rock vein than a straight up rock that he would be doing with Mr. Big. And these 2 albums come out. I have a thing here that's called the Soul Sessions, which is really just a best of those 2 albums, Japanese release collection there. Later gets back into doing more solo albums in the 90s. This one here, personally, my favorite of all of them, somewhere in the middle. Another one here, I'm Going Sane. This one comes out in 2002. Then we have Destroy All Monsters. These albums here, he started to get in a more pop rock vein, kind of the pop punk sound that was very popular in the early 2000s. This EP here, an 8-song EP called Pure. It's got some alternate versions of tracks acoustically and different things of that nature. Had some new stuff as well. Then he starts a series called Mr. Vocalist in Japan that's very successful, doing covers of Japanese hit songs, recording them in English and stuff. He has a best of that comes out in Japan that had 3 new tracks on it. Then he finally does this one called Mr. Rock Vocalist that does rock songs. I think he did 3 or 4 of those Mr. Vocalist series. He also did another project for Tak Matsumoto Group, and this one here actually features a Night Ranger bass player in it, as well as Tak Matsumoto, and of course Eric Martin singing. So, you know, pretty cool lineup there to have for that. Then we've got, moving over into Paul Gilbert, who was in Racer X, which was like a shred metal type group on the Shrapnel label. That was the album before he got into Mr. Big. These pick up afterwards in I believe this is starting in 2000. They reunite, and he does a bunch more of these sort of albums here. This one's called Getting Tighter. Also does Snowball of Doom, a live album. So blows through with that sort of stuff, but he also, prior to all this, he's doing solo stuff. So this is King of Club's 2nd solo album by him, and Flying Dog comes out. He does a lot of things that are Japanese only or European only releases. Gilbert Hotel. He did this one here with, this is with Freddie Nelson, pairing up of those two called United States. Interesting release there if you want to hear. It's basically another band. It's Freddie Nelson singing with him. Then he started doing instrumental CDs, which is what I really like from him. So Get Out of My Yard, Silence followed by a Deafening Roar, another really great one. This one here, Fuzz Universe, a very different 70s retro sound feel to this one. Vibrato, which almost gets into a jazz vein. He's got another one out in between here that he did through like a Pledge Music sort of a thing. That's one of the ones I couldn't dig up. But he has a brand new one, Werewolves of Portland. It just came out this past Friday on June 11th. Very good, worth checking out. Back to doing all the shred stuff. And he's got this cool 2 CD best of, again, Japanese released item here. 1 disc of all the vocal tracks and a disc of all instrumentals, and a very cool booklet in the middle of this sort of thing here, sort of thing. So there you go, there's that. And then we're going to move into Billy Sheehan. Very quickly, you know, starts with David Lee Roth Band, Eat 'Em and Smile, moves in through the Skyscraper album before he leaves, and that's when he joins Mr. Big, or forms Mr. Big, I should say, in '88. He's done a lot of stuff. He's had a group called Niacin. He does a lot of jazz fusion and other things. But I started picking up his sort of solo releases and those sort of projects when he focused back in on rock. And this one here came out on the Favored Nations label with Steve Vai, his former partner in David Lee Roth Band. He even guests on here. Cold Compression 2001, really great. This album here, Cosmic Troubadour, came out in 2004. Holy cow, and he's singing on these, which is really cool. Very good stuff. He did this partnering, I should say, Devil's Slingshot. It's got Virgil Donati on drums, Billy Sheehan, of course, on bass, Tony McAlpine on guitar, another great guitar player. He then forms this group here, which is, Sheehan, McAlpine, Portnoy, Sheehan, McAlpine, Sheridan. So a precursor to, Winery Dogs, and then Sons of Apollo. So we get into Winery Dogs' debut album with Richie Kotzen, former bandmate from Mr. Big, and of course Mike Portnoy on drums. Here's a deluxe edition, 2 CD edition reissue of that first album, and you can see there was a box set of it there behind me that came with a whole bunch of goodies. They do a second album called Hot Streak, which personally I like this album best. It's much more varied than the first one. And then they put out this called Dog Years, 2013 to 2016. It's got a live album, music videos, and a bonus EP of 5 unreleased songs. And then, as I had mentioned, there's Sons of Apollo with Mike Portnoy in it. They formed that after Winery Dogs, but Derek Sherinian comes in on this one here. So a lot of cool crossover and who the band members are that they've been playing with over time and stuff like that. And so we'll move into Richie Kotzen, who took over on guitars for Paul Gilbert. We're going to see if we can get this in the right order here. I apologize. Richie Kotzen, Fever Dream, one of his debut albums. I don't have everything. This guy's so prolific. Richie Kotzen's Motherhead's Family Reunion, 1993. That was the album he made right after, or it's not 93, it's 1994, after leaving Poison. So that was always an interesting one for me. They do a reunion album. It gets that lineup back together. They make another album. This is the early 2000s, 2007. But this is one of his earlier instrumental albums, and there's a cool collection on Shrapnel if you want to just check out. I think it's of his first 3 solo albums. Some of the tracks from this one are included on it, but you can check things out like that. He had a band called 40 Deuce for a while, Nothing to Lose. The album came out in 2006. It's in that pop punk vein of stuff that was very popular at the time. Live in San Paulo, really good live album. He's just a great musician, great to hear live. What Is, another one here, simply called Slow. And he's just extremely prolific, probably more so than any of the other members. Change. So it's cool, interesting. Some of these, every so often, he'll do a cover of one of the Mr. Big songs or something in there. So that's always kind of cool to get a hold of. This one here, Peace Sign, and Cannibals. Salting the Earth. He has this was a good one. If you want to check out a nice collection of his, it's a 2 CD compilation, Essentials, and it's got a DVD. So a 3-disc set by him. And I believe this is his most recent thing here, 50 for 50. Turned 50 years old and he wrote 50 brand new studio recorded songs and put them out a triple disc set. Again, as I said, this guy is prolific. All right, we're coming to the tail end here. Pat Torpy, original drummer, made 2 solo albums and sings. He is an amazing musician in and of his own right. I like the title of this one, called Odd Man Out. And also Y2K, both Japanese release albums. Again, just the band is really huge over there. Anything they do sells. Impellitteri, Stand in Line project that he was in before joining Mr. Big. Fantastic album. If you want a place to start for Impellitteri, this album here. Plus, this has Graham Bonnet from Rainbow singing. And new drummer Matt Starr, who takes over for Pat Torpy. As far as I know, first recorded project of something that isn't Mr. Big, Black Swan, supergroup in and of itself, which has Reb Beach on lead guitar coming from Winger, MSG singer Robin McCauley, and Jeff Pilson on bass. And interesting note, they are making a second album, so I'm really excited about that. And there you go, we just ran through 80 CDs of Mr. Big band and related projects. Hope that gives you a big, well-rounded overview of what this band has done and is capable of. If maybe there was some stuff in there you weren't aware of, and you can go search that out. But otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, have a great day, and I'll talk to you real soon. Bye, everyone.